Hey, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our newsletter at theproductporch.com for notifications on the latest episodes and exclusive content. So I asked him a softball question. Why do you want to work at the LA Times? His response, I don't know. Make me an offer and we'll see.
Oh.
Okay.
Welcome to The Product Porch with Joe Ghali, Todd Blaquiere, and me, Ryan Cantwell. Today, we discuss the 3 questions you need to answer in your job interview and how to nail them. Now settle in, folks, because on The Product Porch, every topic is a product topic. We just like hanging out with each other. I think we've established that already. We just like hanging out.
That's true. I miss you guys.
Feelings mutual.
So guys, even when I'm not talking to you, I like listening to you because I got a chance. I got a chance to listen to the episode you guys did with Nils, which I wasn't on. And I heard some pretty cool stuff in that episode. It was some advice, whether it was Nils talking about positioning or some of the advice that you guys were given on how you've what you've seen and you've done. And Todd, I think it was you put something out there that really struck me. And it was, as you enter a hiring process, there are 3 key things that you need to do. And it's essentially questions. You positioned them as like these three questions. And they were, do you want the job? You need to make the person who's asking you the questions know that you're excited about it, you're ready to go. Second one was, do I want to work with this person? Is that the right person I want to work with? Great. And then finally, the obvious one is, can this person do the job? So you're answering these 3 questions all the time. And this was like, yeah, I mean, it made sense to me. This is what essentially the hiring process is meant to do, is answer these 3 questions. Did I hear it right?
You nailed it. And off the top, can I tell you the worst "do you want it" response ever?
Oh,
Please
yes,
share.
I want
share.
to so bad.
I'm at the LA Times. I'm interviewing a product manager. I'm excited because it's the first time I, as a product manager, have interviewed another product manager. So I asked him a softball question. Why do you want to work at the LA Times? His response, I don't know. Make me an offer and we'll see.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, that's so off-putting. Did you walk out of the room like, yeah, we're done?
I was too junior. I kept the interview going, but honestly, if I ever got that response again in my career, I would just say, okay,
We're going to end it. Thanks for your help.
Well, he failed on 2 questions before he ever got to the third one. I knew that he didn't want the job, and I did not want to work with him.
See?
So he made those 2 things clear.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I think there's a point there too, and there is a history of people over-indexing on, can you do the job? People lean really hard into that aspect. And not that they're ignoring the other 2. It's to the point where it's just so far down the priority list of what they want to tell people, they might not get to it. And that what are the risks there? What are the risks of that happening?
So what I've seen in my career is there's a lot of people out there who can do the job. And that's who you're competing against. You need something unique to position and differentiate yourself, right? Which remains true. But one of those ways of differentiating yourself is, do you want it and do I want to work with you? Let me tell you a quick story about someone who spiked really hard on the do you want it for me and do I want to work with you? And then I would love to dive into the do you want the job, like what those questions look like, how you answer them. I'd like to get into that in detail. I had a woman, I can say her name is Caroline, because I say this all the time. I would hire her in a second for any job. She's got a job with me wherever she wants to go. She was interviewing for a social media manager position. There's a lot that she could do. She indexed higher on the can you do the job, but there are some key gaps. And I even had someone else on my panel tell me, hey, I don't think she can do the Google AdWords. I don't think she has a lot of Google AdWords kind of experience, and we're going to need that. But when we met, she brought in things to show me. She was bringing in a portfolio, which I didn't ask of all social media managers. But she brought in something to show me her work. She was ready to talk to me specifically about what she would want to do with our brand and with the goals that we were trying to hit. And when she would talk, her passion seeped through for the position, for the company, for the problems I was trying to solve. And to me, it was like, yep, good enough on the can you do the job, but does she want the job? And do I want to work with her? Both of those things were so high that I'm like, okay, I can teach her Google AdWords. That's a piece of cake. And she's going to be a star. And I'll tell you this, she was a star. She was a fantastic influence on our culture at the company.
Yep.
That passion came through for everyone around her. Right away, she built stakeholder relationships. And so she was a star for our team.
When you were sharing your story about your friend at the LA Times and the Google AdWords, you're like, you thought to yourself, she doesn't have the experience, but I could teach her. And I wrote it down on a sticky note. It was attitude. You were looking for the attitude. You were looking for, will this person bring the swagger? Like how she prepares for the interview will be consistent with how she prepares to do the job. Like the same energy and thoughtfulness and attitude is like that she brings to the interview. I want her to bring that same energy and attitude to everything that we work on together. Like ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yes. Because you know why? Money is a very short-term motivator.
Yeah.
Like someone gets a salary bump, they're happy and they work a little harder and they have a little bit more enthusiasm. But then they get used to the check. You see that check over and over again, you get used to that amount. The first time you see it, you're like, ooh, I can't believe I make this much now. But after you've gotten that check 5-6 times, you're over it. It's the same with coming in to get a job, right? Everyone's trying to get that. I want to get this job. I want to get that salary, right? But once they see the check over and over again, they're going to be used to it. So to your point, Joe, if when you're trying to get that check for the first time, you're not showing me you're all in, how are you going to be 6 paychecks later?
You can't teach attitude. Like I can teach you how to do Google AdWords. I can teach you how to XYZ, but I can't make you want it. I can't make you be excited for the job. It comes out in your appearance, the way that you dress, if you smile, if you're excited. These are the things that I'm trying to pick up on because those are things that I am naturally inclined to weigh heavily towards when evaluating candidates.
I'll give you 3 questions right at the top that I like asking for do you want this job?
Yep.
One of them I already said, why do you want to work here? The other ones I'll ask are, what do you know about our company? And tell me what you know about this job. We have an open position. What do you know about it?
What do you know? Yeah.
Those are 3 questions to me that like I can tell really quickly how much you care about working for us.
Like,
how
do
much
you want
this
it?
job.
You're showing, if you're answering thoughtfully, you've shown you've invested the time. You're able to show that you see a real connection between your personal values and the values of both the role and the organization, perhaps. Like that's an angle that you can specifically bring. I love that. I think those are good ones. So one pro tip from me related to this question of do you want it? Somebody taught me this early in my career. To me, it felt like old school interview tip, but it's at the end of every interview, make sure you tell the person, I'm really excited about this. I really want this job. And I never leave an interview without saying those words anymore, ever. Let them know. I just want you to know I'm really excited about this. This is a role I want. Thing.
People think of this as like dating. You know, when you're dating, you're trying to be cool, right? Even when you go out, if you go on a date with a girl on that first date and you're like, man, I really want this girl to be my girlfriend. Like, I really like this girl. I'd like to see her a few more times.
Yeah.
You do not say or show that, right? The worst thing you can do is be like, hey, by the way, I know it's only our first date, but I really like you so much, and I want to see you 3 more times, and hopefully you'll be my girlfriend. That's a quick way to never, ever seeing that girl again.
Yeah.
But that's not how you approach interviews. So can I give you some of the worst things I've seen here? I've seen smart people make big mistakes through little things they do, and they don't know they're doing it. And I know these are smart, talented people who are just making mistakes.
Yep.
So one example is people will tell me this. Tell me what you know about my company. Well, okay. So I've only had like a 5-minute cursory look at your website. Oh,
Ooh.
why, dude? Even if that's true, what you just told me is I could only give your company 5 minutes of my attention.
Right.
And yet you want me to hire
wanna
you.
work here? Yeah.
And I see very smart, talented people who say things like that.
Yep.
Or the other, I will have people who just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I really don't know much about your company." And I just, again, I'm like, well, why did you
And I think
even come to this interview?
worst sin is not asking enough questions. Like, you should have enough questions to ask for a full hour more than the interview.
That's on my list as well.
Okay.
Yeah. If
That's
you
on
are
my list.
stopped
That's
saying,
how
like,
I tell
"What?
it. If
I
you
don't
want
have any
the job, you're going to ask me questions.
Right.
And those questions are not just about you. If you want the job, you're not just asking me, what's your vacation policy? Do you have a bonus? And what's your
How much do you pay?
No. How much? No. This is not showing me you want the job. Showing me what the job is asking questions like, can you tell me a little bit about your management style? Hey, I noticed you have this product that I found interesting. Are you looking to expand on that product? Are you looking to bring it to new markets? Hey, what are your number one outcome? That was one of the best questions I ever got on an interview. And it was from someone we all know. But one of the best questions she asked me was, she said, "Todd, tell me what outcomes you're focused on right now."
Yeah.
Lovely question. Love it. Shows me you care. You want to understand the business.
Yeah.
A lot going on there. But you're right. Good questions bring good questions that are about the company and where they want to go.
Right.
Not just about you.
Yep, there we go. All right, I want to tackle the second question that you've got here, Todd. Do I want to work with this person? So this one feels like the most soft skilly of the set, right? Or how do you communicate this? Like, do I want to work with you? Because there's not like the canned questions that you're going to get in this regard. It's something that has to come through. I think it's like the reading between the lines, like kind of stuff. Am I reading this right? Like, how have you approached this? I'm interested to hear from both of you. And like, how do you receive signals?
Okay. So I have a very easy way to answer this question.
Mhm.
It's as simple as, tell me about yourself.
Oh,
So I look for people that talk about their family. Like, I'm looking for, do they start with, do they just recite their resume,
yeah.
right? But it's like, I'm looking for how they present themselves. And 3 times I was told by the hiring manager, they liked how I started by talking about my wife and 2 daughters, because the values, although I didn't say what my values were, they could tell what matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, like, well, this is a person whose values match my own. That it's a match.
Yeah, Joe, you mentioned it similarly. I'll just tell you the question I asked, not just tell me about yourself, but tell me one thing that I wouldn't be able to learn from your resume that you really want me to know about you.
Yeah.
I like that question.
Yeah, because it tells me if they answer with, well, there was this other project that I did that isn't on there. And then it's like, well, but because I'm not looking for people who are just like me. I'm looking for somebody with a person who can be a good complement to the team we're trying to build, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Todd, what about you? What do you think?
So what's funny is I don't know that I ask specific questions for this. I mean, we do have value questions at our company that our recruiter asks, and there's some things I ask to see values alignment. But do I want to work with you? This is the part of the thing that we can't ignore. We are humans working with other humans.
Yeah.
And you know what? Not all humans like every other human. I think we ignore sometimes the subjectivity, or we try to pretend that we can create unbiased interview processes or remove subjectivity from the interviews. And that to me is just silliness. It's just not going to be the case. And if you're hoping that you're going to get an unbiased interview process, you're fooling yourself. You're going to go in and you're going to talk to humans, and they're going to look at you and they're going to make a judgment. I mentioned my buddy before, who's an actor, professional actor, and he's told me before, he knows when he walks in the room. In some cases, the second he walks in the room, they just don't see it. They don't see the kind of guy they expected to see for the role, and it doesn't matter what he says or does. He lost it the second he walks in the room.
Yeah.
Those things do exist even in product manager interviews.
Absolutely.
They shouldn't, And in some cases, it's unethical or even illegal, but they do. So don't beat yourself up if someone doesn't like you. If you walk out of that interview, and we all know it, we all know when someone doesn't like us, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know when you're like, man, that person
You're not on the same wavelength.
doesn't like the Todd, was not feeling it. They weren't into it. What you have to do is you have to avoid the avoidables. So I'll point a few things out. Like when I'm interviewing, I'm looking for red flags. We've all heard one of the worst red flags, putting down other companies or people. Be very careful how you answer questions.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're trying to get out of a bad situation and we're feeling away. Don't let that come through. It looks bad. It never works. Even, I've had people do that. You know what it's like. Yeah, I may know what it's like, but also like I like working with people who aren't going to talk about other people. And if that's what you're doing in the interview, what are you going to do when you're comfortable? The other is, what I want to see? I want to see active listening.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see someone who's actually, I can tell they're listening to me. I love it when I see people write down notes.
Yeah.
I love it when I ask a thoughtful question. If someone takes a moment to digest the question and think about it, as opposed to right away trying to BS something. Pause is okay to me. Writing down's okay. Like, show me just you're listening. We're having a good conversation. And the last tip I'll give, I know I'm giving a lot here. Last tip I'm going to give is just be the best version of you. You don't have to be someone who's not you. You know what I mean? Like, we are 3 different individuals, and I would work with either of you, and you two are different from each other. So Ryan doesn't have to pretend to be Joe. Joe doesn't have to pretend to be Ryan, but I would love to work with either of you. I have. It was awesome. So
been a while.
The thing is, like, you don't have to, it's been a while, but we need to do it again. You don't have to put on a facade and pretend to be someone else, but you do have to be the best version of you. So I've literally told people this. You want to hear a silly tip? Before you jump on that call, that first recruiter call, smile 5-10 times. Do the smile exercises. Get your smile going. Because you might be doing, I've done this. I've interviewed for a job in the parking lot of my other job, right?
Oh, yeah.
That I'm desperately trying to get off of. And I feel awful inside.
Yep.
I don't want to bring that energy into my call. So I do my smile push-ups. Smile, smile, smile. I give myself a nice positive mood. And I bring my best energy into that. It sounds silly, but it's meaningful. People feel that energy. And if they feel good when they're with you, you got a much better chance of winning the job. Anyway, that was like a 5-minute long monologue. Sorry.
No, so another question. So looking at it from, if you have an opportunity to interview somebody and ask them questions, another one I like to ask is, if I were to ask your current coworkers what you're known for, how would they answer? And Joe, it's very similar to some of the things you were looking at there. And I always think the answers are very interesting. One bad answer I got once, it was such a turn off. So I'm interviewing somebody. I asked him that question, and he had this little notebook with him, and it had a Superman logo. And he pointed at it and he said, all my coworkers would say, I'm Superman. I do anything. I fix everything. That's
oh my God,
what
you'd be
do.
so off my list faster than Speeding Bullet.
I couldn't have said goodbye soon enough.
Faster than Speeding Bullet.
I'll jump over the.
You're like, well, I'm your kryptonite, so it's not going to work out here.
All right. So the third part. So we talked about, do you want it?
Yeah.
Do I want to work with you?
Yep.
Now, the third one, it's the one that I think a lot of people index towards, and that is, can you do the job?
Since we're talking about product management interviews, maybe we can start with this one off with, what are the many different methods that are being used right now to interview for can you do the job? What are some of the interview types or different frameworks we see out there?
I think the one that is most mature and you're going to bump into most often are the behavioral set of questions. Like, tell me about the time when. What about when you had to deal with a difficult coworker, or when a project didn't go your way? That kind of thing.
So I interviewed for 3 different jobs at the same time. One with Facebook, one with Cognizant, and one with IQVIA. And they all interviewed in very different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook did their product sense interview, and they were looking for how I think. So they're challenging me with analytical kind of questions. They would pick up, if Dow is declining, how do you diagnose the problem? You're looking at data, you see this in the metrics. How do you respond to this? The other thing they'll do is they would choose something and say, here's a user base. Here's a problem. Tell me how you'd go about designing a solution for this. I was prepared for that interview because I looked up how Facebook interviews. There's plenty of data out there about that.
Yeah.
But what they're testing for in the can you do the job, they're testing for my product sense. They're testing for how I think. Do I have a process? That's a very common one in product management, especially if you're in like the Silicon Valley, interviewing for Silicon Valley jobs.
And there's probably the most information out there to help you prepare for those styles.
Ton.
Yeah.
There's a ton. Just go on YouTube. There's a ton of information on prepare for that.
Yeah.
The Cognizant one, that one was a little different. That one was, they wanted me to wireframe on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
They would talk about, hey, we have this problem or this solution we want to build. They were looking for me to identify the problem underneath the solution, ask questions. They would play different roles. So there's multiple people and they're playing different roles of different people. See if I can ask the right person, the right question to get down to the real source of the problem. And then what they wanted me to do was wireframe a solution on the spot and actually show them like, here's one way of going out solving it. I mean, it's not the ideal way of product management. I don't wireframe that early, but that's what I did. Again, that's another one. Cognizant. I knew how they were interviewing. I looked it up. I prepared for it. I practiced. I even found my favorite tool and tried using it a few times so I knew exactly, so I wouldn't look like a silly person when I was trying to wireframe in person. But that was one thing they were looking for. Again, similar things though. Like, do you understand the problem? Can you ask the right questions? Can you come up with a solution? Do you have a design process? Do you have a lot of times you're looking for, how do you think, and do you have a process way of thinking?
Yeah. And Todd, I want to just pay mention to the latest, greatest style of interview in that vein is a live vibe code session. So I've seen reports of people having to do that. I can't speak to that. I haven't been asked to do it and haven't gone through it. But I would assume what they're looking for when they're seeing that is, how are you coding with the appropriate context? Do you know who the user is? What problem are you trying to solve? Not that you can prompt engineer and get the prettiest output, like that sort of thing, right?
I haven't seen that. Yeah. I mean, I would assume I would approach it the same way.
Yeah.
That's what's funny is like in both of those jobs I just mentioned, IQVIA, by the way, interviewed in a completely different style, and I didn't have as much detail information on how they did it. But I prepared for them all the same way, and that was going through these 3 questions.
Yeah.
So so I would do the same. If I came into a vibe coding session, man, I hope I'm past that point in my career. I hope no one ever does that to me, please. But if I have to go through that, I would approach it the same way. I would ask questions about, okay, tell me more about the user. Tell me about the market segment. Tell me, why are we approaching this? What data do we have already? I would ask those questions. I would ask a bunch of questions and then go into vibe coding. And you know what? Maybe that's not how they're doing it, Ryan. So maybe I wouldn't get a job. Maybe be like, hey, this guy has too many questions.
It could be.
Let's do this. Why don't we play a game? We're talking about, can you do the job? I'm sure each of us have a killer can you do the job question that is like our go-to can you do the job question. Let's each pick one and someone can try to answer it. See if they got the moves.
Yeah. So
who wants to be the interviewer first?
I'll do that.
I'll be the interviewee. Just to start. I threw the game out there, so let me put myself on the hot seat first. Ask me one of your favorite can you do the job questions.
All right, Todd. So this is in the Joe Ghali list of questions. So any of you that ever interviews with me, you better be ready for this question. How do you balance short-term stakeholder asks with long-term product strategy? It's always one of my questions that I ask.
Mm-hmm.
How do I balance short-term stakeholder asks with long-term
product strategy?
Product outcomes?
Yeah, product outcomes.
Product strategy. Yep. Product strategy. I want to tell you about something recently that's come up for me in my career. So we get a lot of customer feedback through various channels. I mean, you talked about stakeholders, and we have our sales team that often have requests that come in. Unlike other product managers who I'm sure never deal with sales requests.
Never.
We get them. And we have our CSMs, our customer support managers, and they'll bring it in. What we were finding was we were getting so overwhelmed by all these requests. We could have just prioritized all these requests and probably had a 3-month long roadmap. But we had a very specific goal that we were trying to hit at our company. I'm not going to share that goal. In an interview, I would share it, but this is being recorded. It's too recent. But in an interview, I would share it. But we had a growth goal. Let me just say that. We had a growth goal that we were trying to hit. And this would drown our roadmap, right? So the short-term stakeholder requests would drown our roadmap. So what we did is we actually created what we call a roundtable. And at this roundtable, what we would do is we had each of these teams prioritize on their own their most important like the requests, things that they were seeing. And we want to respond to that. We want to be good partners. And we want them to know that we're listening to them. And not just that we're listening to them, they hear things we don't hear. We need to hear that. So we have them bring those to us in this roundtable. And we even created a form for them where, they can put in their requests. And we'd have this roundtable with these team members. And we'd even refer to them as knights, by the way. We call them knights. And we asked them, hey, knights, what are the top things? We asked them questions about it in that call. And together we do some scoring. We do our cost versus value, our level of effort versus value scoring. But we have a rubric that we use to score the value. But when we're doing this, we're looking for a couple things. If something just happens to align to one of our strategic initiatives, that's great. We can elevate that, pull it out of the round table, and put that into our release plan, which is great. If it doesn't, we're going to work down that priority list, and we do it once a month. We have that roundtable meeting. What we're going to do is we're going to work down the highest value, lowest effort things at the top. But everyone in the room gets to see it. So it's not a black box. Everyone can see how we're making that decision so that they're aligned. For those strategic initiatives, we have a very specific process, but what it enables, it's all discovery based. And I could talk about that later. We can get into that if you want to dig into our discovery process. But doing this roundtable enables us to know to keep our stakeholders aligned on what they see as the most important, while enabling us to do the deep discovery that we need to do on that and to drive that key initiative. We started this a few months ago. It's been very effective for us.
Did everyone notice how Todd paused and thought about the answer before he gave it? That was really good, dude. Like, I did not give you that question ahead of time and you freaking hit a home run. So good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I feel so good. The one thing I think I could have done better after I said at the end, and it went really well, I realized I wish I hit with a very hard how it's made a difference for us. Had I thought about it a little bit more, I would have had a very specific answer to what it's done for our company. But I'll point out one other thing I did do there intentionally. I do this all the time. I tell others to do this. I try to leave a couple breadcrumbs for you that you might find interesting that hopefully you would ask about.
Yeah.
My thought is you might be like, okay, so wait a second, tell me a little bit about your discovery process, or tell me how you align the initiatives to the strategic initiatives. Like, try to leave some breadcrumbs instead of trying to answer all in one response. All right, who gets to ask the next? Who's the next interviewer and interviewee? I get off the hot seat. I'm out.
All right, I'll be the interviewer. Joe, will you be my interviewee?
All right, bring it on. It won't be as good as Todd's answer, but it'll be good.
All right. Tell me about a time when you made a decision and it did not turn out well. Give me the situation and what did you do after things didn't go your way?
So the question is, tell me about a time where I made a decision where things didn't go well, and you want me to walk you through how I handled that situation.
I want you to walk me through your diagnosis of why you think it went wrong, and then what you did to try to turn it around.
So one of my first product manager roles was in fintech. I was a newer, and my stakeholders were internal, or my customers were internal stakeholders. They were financial advisors, the branch managers. And we were doing a big lift, rebrand, relaunch of their online client portal. And it hadn't been redesigned in a long time. It took 15 seconds to load. And it also, the challenge was we were working with about half a dozen different vendors that were integrating into this platform. So we had our own IT team, but then we were coordinating efforts with all the different other vendors that we were working with. And we made a proclamation that we were going to launch on a particular date. It was going to be October 6th. I think it was 2015. I'll never forget this. The night before the launch, because we did our launches early in the morning so that we didn't impact the customer experience. We did something called load testing with our vendor, and the site failed at 500 concurrent users. Our audience is much bigger than that. We were going to do a lot of email marketing and campaigns, and we were going to really stress our system out. We forgot to do stress testing with our vendors. So we had to call off the launch. So what went wrong is I was very focused on a date. And at that time, I felt like we failed because we didn't hit the date. The next day, our chief technology officer, Tim, pulled me aside and we talked about it. And he said something to me that really resonated with me. And he said, Joe, in a year, no one's going to care the date. Remember the date. They're going to remember how we launched it. He's like, I want you to remember that. So looking back, I was more focused on the output. I was focused on the date and not delivering value to our financial advisors, our client specialists, our branch managers. And so while we try to be clear on expectations for dates for our customers, what it showed me is that we needed to be more focused on outcomes and communicating what those outcomes are and just explaining to people, we're going to have a target, but these are my non-negotiables. And so I think, thinking back to it, we were trying to impress people with the date and the time and trying to meet that. And that was something we weren't going to make that same mistake again.
Okay. Well done, Joe.
There's something in Joe's response that I really liked. I'm pretty impressed that he remembers some of the specific numbers.
I know.
And that makes a difference. Like
like branded on my
burned.
Back. It's like it was just such a big deal.
It makes it more weighty. It's more real. It doesn't feel like you're making that up. You could have made it up, but it doesn't feel like it. You took an interesting angle on that question too, because I like the way that you took it as like, here's where I messed up in my product process and my product focus. And it really comes back to a principle that you learned and how you shifted through an own, retro, and then how you learned from a mentor. That was interesting. Ryan, did you have any other thoughts on that?
Joe, I like how you provided kind of the background and the situation, right? You kind of followed, I don't know if you were doing it on purpose, but the STAR method a little bit. Like you had a situation, gave the background, provided the task that you were completing, what went wrong, the action, and then kind of the result. And then I asked you to build on that. Tell me, give me a little more. You, I think, naturally did it. So well done. So I like it.
So I'm going to do mine. I'm going to ask mine. Ryan's on the hot seat now, but I'm going to give honorable mention to two things I do because they would take too much time to do them here. So I'm going to give honorable mention to two things. Okay. One of them I do is I will ask for a 10-minute TED Talk. I will say, imagine you're giving a 10-minute TED Talk to aspiring product managers. I want you to tell me how you define product management, what makes a product manager effective, but I want you to share examples from your own career that highlight your approach. Yep. And then I ask them to go. It tells me a lot about what they think product management is and how it works.
Now, Todd, do you ask them that on the spot or do you allow them to prepare?
I usually say, take a minute to prepare if you'd like. But they have no idea coming into the interview that they're going to do
that's going to happen. Yeah.
And then what I'll tell them is I'll say, and if I find something interesting, I might stop you to explore that.
Yeah.
Which I will often do because I'll hear something. Let's go into that deeper. I want to go more into that story.
Yep.
But it tells me a lot, like where they start, what they find valuable. And then it tells me a lot about also how they communicate, how they might sell an idea. So there's a lot it tells me about them. Just listen to that. The other one I do is I do have them pretend that they're a product manager at a fast growing SaaS company. And I will give them 4 initiatives. And I ask them, I want you to prioritize these. You can ask me any questions you like, and I'll give you data if I have it for how to prioritize. Worst answer there, by the way, is just giving me an answer. I think number 2, then number 1, then number 4, then number 3. And I'm like, you didn't even ask me any questions. You know nothing. How the heck do you prioritize with not knowing anything?
Right.
So I expect them to ask me like about the goal, about the requester, dig into the data we have. I expect them to do all that. And if they don't do that, that's a question for me to hear how they investigate. I'm looking for their questions.
Right.
So Ryan, I can't do either of those.
That's fine.
So I got a different one for you. I want you to describe a time when the direction you received from management and stakeholders didn't align with what you believed was right for the product. What did you do?
So the situation I have, it was early in the morning. I was sat at my desk. The president of the company comes running up and slaps a press release in front of me. It was a competitor's product, and the conversation went something like this. Hey, this press release hit my inbox last night from a key competitor, ABC. They are releasing this cool new product. We need to put it on our roadmap immediately. So figure out how you're going to change your roadmap to get this in there right away. We need to start working on it like yesterday. I digested the request very quickly, asked a couple of questions of, okay, why do you feel this is an important strategic priority for us at our organization right now? And the answer I got wasn't very satisfactory. It didn't tie back to any customer focused goal. It was, well, this is going to make them money. It should make us money too. Sounded something like that. And then I tried to discover a little bit more from him about why he was so urgent. Like, why is this, like, where is the gap that he sees in our current product portfolio? So I tried to ask some thoughtful questions, to which then, after I did a little bit of that fact finding, I said, I want to do, before I go jump and do anything, can you give me like a couple hours to see if I can investigate a little bit more? And I want to just learn about this. I want to learn about what they're putting into the world and whatnot. So he gave me that time, and then I had to sit in his office and plead my case. So the way I responded at this point was, after I did my fact finding, I found that the competitor was actually responding to another competitor in a space that we did not play. Like, it was not part of our strategy or something that we would want to bring into the world. I mean, it wasn't related to the direction that we were going. And I said, okay, I see we have two options going forward. As we look at this, those two options sound something like this. I took a couple hours. I did some investigation. I didn't find a lot of teeth here, but you never know. Maybe we have opportunity. Let me be your product manager. I want to make sure we are de-risking the organization and making a better decision. I want to know, are they really solving a problem before I go change the roadmap? Because we've got outcomes we are trying to achieve on that roadmap very clearly, and priorities associated with those. So if you give me the time, maybe a couple weeks, 3 weeks at most, to do that a more full investigation, and we find there is a problem that they are in fact solving, and it's worthwhile that an opportunity exists, we might be able to come up with a solution that's better than theirs. Wouldn't we want that instead of just doing their thing? And tried to tell that story. Or what if we find they're not solving a problem at all? Why would we go do that? That's risky. Then we both have something nobody wants to buy. And I was lucky, after kind of telling that story, kind of laying out my paths and the little investigation that I had done, he immediately said, you make a good point. Go take the 3 weeks, and then you're going to make a presentation to more leaders at this organization with your recommendation. To which
that's fantastic.
I did the thing.
I thought Ryan did a good job. There's a few things I'm looking for when I ask that question. One, I am looking for, first off, do you recognize when you disagree? Some people don't. Some people just do what their bosses tell them.
Yeah.
And they don't have a story because they just do whatever they're told. I don't want that guy on my team. So you actually think for yourself. That's great. 2, do you know how to push back without pissing someone off? Because people do that all the time, but you do. And 3rd, you didn't talk about how stupid your boss was. You didn't put him down or anything when we talked about this. You could have, you didn't. I asked that question in a way that teases out people saying, oh, my boss was a jerk or whatever. You didn't do any of that. And that was great. And then finally, you know, you have a very thoughtful process for it. I would say this. I also love that I thought you told an engaging story. I think that's really great. Now, I will say this about all 3 of our answers. I think all of us could have tightened our stories up.
As soon as I finished, I was way too long.
We were unprepared. We went off the cuff, right? If this is a real interview, we would have prepared our thoughts. We would have been ready with a nice, tight story. All of us went a little bit too rambly on ours. Do any of us have something that we can't leave this pod without saying before we get into our takeaways?
My advice to anyone, and this was at the very beginning of Do You Want the Job? I always ask, hey, is there anything that you see as a gap between my experience and the job description that you see as a barrier for me getting the job? Can I have 5 minutes to tell you why I can help overcome those challenges? That is my
yes, sir.
That is my go-to every single time.
If you only get one question, you should be asking that question Joe asked.
Yeah.
That's the only, because
Yeah.
I have had people tell me specifically things that they thought that I didn't have, but I did have, and I was able to address it.
Absolutely.
And I'm always prepared what I think people will say are my weaknesses. I have responses. So if they say to someone, well, you don't have a lot of B2C work, I'll say, well, actually, you know, at the LA Times, I brought 3 different B2C products to market, X, Y, and Z, and I'll talk about it. So I always write down on my list, like, here's some things it might say. Have to ask that question. I'm so glad you said it, Joe.
Yeah. So I guess the thing I have to say before we leave is a simple one, but it's holy smokes, prepare. It's easier today than it's ever been. Like, just go ask Copilot or Chat GPT to do a web search and learn things. Just don't say, I did a cursory 5 minutes on your website, like Todd mentioned earlier. No, even Todd, you've mentioned it in other episodes. If you can find some public, if somebody's on a podcast, go listen to the podcast. If they wrote an article, go read the article. If they've done a video interview, watch the video interview. For goodness sake, do your homework. That is such a powerful thing.
Well, I think we got to get on our takeaways. And Ryan, you just stole mine. That was going to be my big takeaway.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like, y'all, do you want the job or not?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I mentor people and I help them prepare for interviews. And I've talked to people afterwards and they haven't used the cool killer stories we put together. They weren't ready with the questions we knew would be asked and they went a different direction. And it frustrates me because I'm like, y'all, do you want this job or not? If you really want a job, it's worth you putting the time and energy into how are you going to answer these questions when they're asked?
Yeah.
How are you going to show that you want the job more than anyone else? And gosh dang it, they're going to be so excited to have you on their team.
So my key takeaway is practice your answers. So anyone that has ever, like in the past, when I've been driving and the kids are not in the car, I'll turn off the music and I'll pretend like I'm answering a question. And I'll do that a lot because I want to be ready to be like, kind of like you even said, like, okay, how concise can I be? How can I get to the point? How can I stop rambling? So I think that goes into how badly I want the job. It's just the level of preparedness. And I mean, there have been even situations where I've used my long runs because I'm a runner or walks. I use those to mentally get ready. So it's like a combination of like what you're talking about, which is the preparation of the research and the blog posts and talking to Reddit or, doing your own research online. But then it's also the practicing of how you're going to deliver the answer. Because you may have a really great answer, but if you don't say it or articulate it in a way that's really engaging, it doesn't matter how good the answer is.
Yeah. My key takeaway is a simple one. Just be you.
Yeah. That, yeah.
Show some personality. Don't be indifferent. Like, just take a breath. Show them who you are. Because honestly, if you find yourself, you're not on the same wavelength, do you really want to work with those people anyways?
Yep.
So you want to find that match and just be you.
Be yourself.
And gosh dang it, dress nice for an interview. Holy crap, I see so many t-shirts. Stop wearing freaking t-shirts to interviews. All right, guys, maybe I'm just old school. I'm too old now. All right, y'all. This is fun. This is important. I hope we help someone. I hope we help someone.
Yeah, let us know.
Let's go nail that interview.
If we've helped you, let us know. Send us a note.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Tell us,
that would
please.
be great.
Please.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Hey, you can even reach out. I love helping people find the job. So if you need my help, reach out.
That goes for me too.
All right.
Hit us up.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's good seeing you on the porch.
Yeah. We'll see you guys.
See you guys. Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Blaquiere for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.